Hi and welcome to this new video in my Animate 3. Today we're going to look at the Human IK animation system. So how to manipulate the skeleton here, or actually the rig in Human IK. And yeah, we went through the process of creating the animation character. Then I used the rigging tools Human IK Rig, and that was it. All right. So I would like to address one of the first blocks of new users with Human IK. So the very first thing is that yeah, it's super easy to just grab the controller and make a pose, whatever. Super convenient because you just drag the end of a limb and you make the pose. However, when you go in and do your keyframing, so Shift W, Shift E, as seen in a previous video, and then you want to change the pose, something like that, Shift W, Shift E, when you play back, nothing happens. Why doesn't it work? Well, basically because Human IK wasn't told to actually follow the rotation and translation. So if we move on to the Human IK panel, you will see that the highlighted control, that one I have selected right now, is just gray, right? And if instead we try to do the same thing, so Shift W, Shift E, then we go here, we do this, Shift W, Shift E, then we see that that animation is actually taking place. What is the difference between the two? They are doing the same thing, right? They're the same type of controller. So Control Z, so we go back to the previous situation. The difference is within the Human IK controls, and the feet by default always have the IK blend translation enabled. So reach translation is set to 1, basically 100%. And the same for the rotation. This is the reach rotation is 100%. Cool. So if we instead we select the other one, we see that these are at 0. This is the default setup within Human IK. The ARM controllers, the ARM IK controllers, are actually disabled to begin with. So if you want to proceed and have the ability to make your animations just by dragging these, what you need to do is to set IK blend translation and IK blend rotation up to 1, both of them. And now you will see that the animation is working. That's super cool. Now, the other thing that is often confusing for new users is that if I grab for example, here, the pelvis controller, and I choose this because it's going to affect both arms and legs, what you can see is that the feet stay planted and the hand does not. It's following the rest of the body. So you see, whatever you do, it's basically following at all times. Now, the difference between the hand and the feet is in this attribute, the T and R, that you can see as a pinpoint kind of icon. So if I select that from here, or I mean also from there, but it doesn't really matter, you will see that up here we have the pins that we can disable right now, and you can see that the pins aren't showing up here in the UI, and T and R is now no longer visible there. This means that as soon as I start moving the one of the parents, you see also the leg is behaving exactly like the arm up there, right? So this is extremely confusing at the beginning, but it can prove to be extremely useful when you're making the poses. So say that, I don't know, you're making her step on top of something, right? And so if you start making the animation like she's going to step on that something, you will probably have to have these enabled, these pins, and oops, these pins enabled, so that the next pose that you will create will not have the leg, or actually the feet position, be affected, right? And then you can disable that, and all this. Another thing that is kind of confusing, and probably it's too hid. All of this stuff here is kind of hidden. Nobody would think to have these tools here if not actively told to look at there. Is, let's re-enable the pins there, is the type of human IK, type of manipulation. So I think by default, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, let's start from the left, where you can see the T pose figure icons. The first one is the full body IK, which basically translates into this kind of behavior. Okay, so the IK affects the whole body. So if you pull the arm, the rest of the body at some point is going to follow the transform of the controller. So it's pulling everything, right? Instead, if we switch to this one, it's a body part, which means whatever you do is going to affect just the actual body part. You see, you just move the leg, and you can pull as much as you want. It's not affecting the rest of the body. And then the last one is the selection, which basically, in this case, it's just um, it's exactly the like the body part, okay? Because we have the IK blend, the translation, and rotation. But as you can see, if I put that down to 0, the human IK controls IK blend, translation, and rotation. If I start trying to pull this, it's not gonna work because it's the actual selection, and this thing cannot be moved in space. Okay, so that's, I would say that's quite useless, but it works for the main thing. For the leg, it doesn't work. For the upper arm, it doesn't work. Also for the chest, for this part of the bust, it's not working. So I would see this thing here to not be that useful. And so to create the basic poses here, probably the full IK is the way to go. You create the first pose and you're good. Now, when it comes to the actual setup that Human IK is made of, you can see that we have the controllers themselves for the IK, but if we enabled joint X-ray, probably if I remove the textures, it's easier to see. We have these yellow bones. These are the FK controller, the FK bones. Okay. Now, thing is that it's way better for for an easier way to select things, and to not have to be in joint X-ray all the time, which might be visually cluttering your workflow. To me, it's much better to go in and select what you actually need from the UI because it's directly connected. All right. Now, when we create a keyframe, you will see that we have the keyframe on that, only on that object. But we should have only that object keyframed. But you can see I'm selecting other things, and these other things actually got a keyframe as well. Also up to here, I mean, this is the lower torso joint. Also the leg. Everything's got a keyframe there. But there is no actual effect on anything else than the arm. So what that means basically is that the keyframing system is meant to go over everything, but then only affect whatever you have selected. So for this reason, I would strongly advise that when you create a pose and you create the first pose and you keyframe it, you would not keyframe that only alone. You just create the pose, click on an empty area to select the whole thing, right? And then Shift W, Shift E so that and everything gets its appropriate keyframe type. And when doing so, so adjusting the pose, for example, to do something else, like this. Again, you go here, click twice so everything gets selected, and set a new keyframe. At that point, you can be sure that everything, literally everything in the body, has got a keyframe. All right, so this way you can ensure that you're going to record a, a pose, right? And you can use any kind of feature, also the pinning. So I set this to go up there, set everything, not just that. And then the next pose, for example, I can unpin the foot like this, select everything. Then next pose, I'm going to pin this again. And even if it's pinned right now, what we have set, the transition, the animation that we have set when this thing was not pinned is going to stick. This happens because we had keyframed everything. All right. And then now, from here to there, where we have created and keyframed the whole body after the pinning took place there, then it's getting actually respected because the whole thing, the whole character has been keyframed and that gets respected. All right, so yeah, that does it for today. These are the quick tips and general use cases for Human IK that I understand it's not that straightforward, to say the least, and which has a couple of key features that I would say aren't really clear from the get-go, and there aren't very many resources online to understand how to manipulate this kind of rig. It's all a matter of creating the keyframes using the various features that you have here, like the pinning, the Human IK controls for whatever you have there, and whatnot, and storing the keyframe for the whole body as you go. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and you found useful information. Um, so I'll see you in the next video, and until then, have fun. Bye.